Football might be the beautiful game, but behind the glory and trophies, some legends faced a financial nightmare that's anything but beautiful.
The former Brazilian football star Ronaldinho accused of using fake passports to enter the country.
Players who earned millions, sometimes tens of millions, only to end up with almost nothing.
Keith Gillespie, who plays for Leicester City, is one of 9 members of the team arrested and questioned by Spanish police.
From bad investments to tax troubles, from trusting the wrong people to living beyond their means, these stories show that even the most talented players aren't immune to financial disaster.
And I said, what about the £2 million? I could have done whatever I wanted with it, but because what I didn't want to do is to be seen not to be paid.
Here's what happened to footballers who went from the top of the world to rock bottom. Diego Maradona wasn't just a footballer. He was a god in Argentina, a genius who could do things with a ball that seemed physically impossible. The hand of God, the goal of the century. A World Cup winner who turned Napoli into champions. At his peak, Maradona was raking in serious money. During his time at Napoli between 1984 and 1991, he earned $3 million a year, and that's before counting sponsorships and endorsements, bringing in another $8 to $10 million annually. He had 5 properties in Argentina, a $360,000 Rolls-Royce, a BMW i8 worth around $175,000, a diamond ring worth $360,000. The Belarusian government even gifted him an amphibious tank. When you're getting free tanks, you know you've made it. But while his feet were pure magic, his financial management was a complete disaster. In 2005, the Italian government revealed Maradona owed a staggering $48.6 million in unpaid taxes from his Napoli days. Despite all that wealth, he'd only paid off less than $50,000 and handed over 2 luxury watches. The man who claimed $100 million in assets at the end of his life actually left his family with just $500,000 when he died in 2020. His daughters expected a fortune. Instead, they got a fraction of what they hoped for. Maradona's downfall wasn't just about taxes. It was drugs, obesity, the mafia, a lifestyle that spiraled out of control. By the mid-1980s, Maradona had become addicted to cocaine, having started using it in Barcelona in 1983. At Napoli, where he was treated like a demigod after bringing them their first European trophy, the addiction interfered with his ability to play. He enlisted the Camorra, a notorious mafia crew, for protection in one of Europe's most dangerous cities. This enabled his habits of partying, taking hard drugs, and having multiple affairs. In January 1991, after police tapped a phone call with a prostitute, Maradona was charged with cocaine possession and distribution. A blood test in April that year found traces of the drug, leading to a 15-month ban from football. Images of a tearful Maradona being led away by police became iconic for all the wrong reasons. Then came the 1994 World Cup, where the world saw Maradona's drug issues laid bare. After scoring against Greece, the 33-year-old wheeled away screaming maniacally into a pitch-side camera. Days later, he was sent home after testing positive for 5 variants of ephedrine. Where did all the money go? According to sources close to him, it was squandered because of his pierced hands and largely stolen in order to trick him and empty his pockets. His lawyer, Angelo Pisani, said Maradona lived beyond his means and was very generous. People took advantage of that generosity, using him and emptying his pockets. If Maradona's troubles came from lifestyle and dangerous connections, another player's financial collapse had a very different cause. Keith Gillespie's downfall was all about gambling. The Northern Irish winger had a career most footballers would dream of, coming through Manchester United's youth system alongside David Beckham and Gary Neville, winning the FA Youth Cup in 1992.
The Youth Cup belongs to Manchester United.
He moved to Newcastle as part of the deal bringing Andy Cole to Old Trafford, becoming part of Kevin Keegan's entertainers. At his peak, Gillespie was on $14,000 a week at Blackburn. Over his 20-year career, he earned an estimated $10 million. By 2010, he was declared bankrupt. The reason? Gambling. a full-blown addiction that cost him over $7 million. Gillespie's gambling started innocently at 16, an apprentice at Manchester United earning $46 a week. He and teammate Colin McKee would go to the bookies at the end of their road. Gillespie started small, one-win bets, then $2. That rush of adrenaline got him hooked. The next day he returned, and the day after, until the days he didn't go to the bookies, stood out more than the ones he did. By the time he was at Newcastle, aged 19 and living alone in a hotel room, Gillespie spent more and more time at the bookies. Then came Black Friday, October 27, 1995. This was the day Gillespie completely lost control. He started with a relatively sensible $1,000 bet on a horse from Henry Cecil's stable at Newmarket. It won, but there was no time to celebrate. He immediately moved on to the next race, betting $4,000, then another $4,000, and another. He kept chasing losses, betting $4,000 on every race, not keeping track of how much he was down. The final race was at Bangor, a national hunt flat race for inexperienced horses, basically a lottery. Gillespie stuck $4,000 on a 12-1 shot called Dream Ride. It finished 10th, some 40 lengths behind. When he called his bookie Mickey to ask about the damage, the answer made him sick. "You lost $47,000 today." That was nearly a year's wages. Gillespie lay in bed that night restless, thinking about winning it back. The next day, he lost another $15,000. 2 days, $62,000 gone. When the press got hold of the story, Gillespie had to call his mom and explain that he'd blown money she could only dream of. Kevin Keegan was understanding when Gillespie called him, but the solution showed how deep the problem went. Newcastle advanced him part of his signing-on bonus to settle the debt. The teammates weren't sympathetic. They were laughing, especially about the horse named Dream Ride. The introduction of online and phone betting made everything worse. At Blackburn, when Gillespie called Ladbrokes, the person on the other end would hear his voice and immediately say, "Mr. Gillespie, account number QT3561439. Is it?" He was betting on every single race going. It got to the stage where he wasn't physically handing over money anymore. It was just numbers on a screen, which made it even easier to lose track. But it wasn't just the horses that destroyed him financially. He also got caught up in film syndicate schemes, investing in something that promised tax relief.
Keith Gillespie, who plays for Leicester City, is one of 9 members of the team arrested and questioned by Spanish police.
By 2007, he owed $436,000 in taxes spread over 10 years, with payments increasing each year. He'd invested in films called The Glass, Star Hunter, and Bride of the Wind, films nobody's ever heard of, including Gillespie himself. Hundreds of footballers got caught in similar schemes, even Sir Alex Ferguson. But for Gillespie, it was just another disaster on top of the gambling addiction. By the time he stopped playing, Gillespie had lost more than $7 million total. Gambling destroyed Gillespie's fortune, but the next player's downfall came from a completely different weakness, one that also started during his playing days. Ronaldinho proved that even the most gifted players can end up broke. Ronaldinho, the man who made football look like art, ended up with reports of having just $5 in his bank account. Prime Ronaldinho was unstoppable. At Barcelona between 2003 and 2008, he was the highest paid player, earning $173,000 per week, or $7.71 million a year. In 2006, the year after winning the Ballon d'Or, he earned $19 million from endorsements alone. He had deals with Nike, Pepsi, Coca-Cola, and countless others. But Ronaldinho's lifestyle was the problem. While brilliant on the pitch, off it, he was partying constantly. His time at Barcelona was defined by late nights in clubs, women, and a lack of discipline that eventually got him exiled by Pep Guardiola when the new manager arrived and decided to clean house. Ronaldinho's approach to life was simple: play hard, party harder. He'd be spotted in Barcelona's nightlife scene regularly, sometimes just hours after matches. Former teammates have spoken about how Ronaldinho would show up to training hungover, but still put on a show during practice. The problem was that his physical condition deteriorated because he simply didn't take care of himself. The partying caught up with him, and by the time Guardiola took over in 2008, the writing was on the wall. Ronaldinho was moved on, ending one of the most spectacular but ultimately wasteful careers in football history. The money issues started appearing publicly in 2019 when 57 properties belonging to Ronaldinho, along with his Brazilian and Spanish passports, were confiscated due to unpaid taxes and fines. He'd been fined for illegally building a fishing platform on the Guaíba River in a heritage-protected area. The fine was reduced from $8.5 million to $6 million, but Ronaldinho and his brother Roberto failed to pay. Their passports were suspended. Then, in 2018, reports emerged that Ronaldinho had only $5 in his bank account and was on the verge of bankruptcy. The man who'd earned tens of millions was essentially broke. The real low point came in 2020 when Ronaldinho was arrested in Paraguay for entering the country with a fake passport.
The former Brazilian football star Ronaldinho, accused of using fake passports to enter the country.
He and his brother were held in custody for 6 months, 32 days in actual prison, followed by house arrest in a luxury hotel. During his time in prison, Ronaldinho did what he does best. He played football, competing in a prison futsal tournament where his team won 11-2 in the final. He even celebrated his 40th birthday behind bars. Eventually, Ronaldinho and his brother reached a plea deal, paying fines of $90,000 and $110,000 respectively to secure their release. Where did all the money go? Like many footballers, Ronaldinho invested poorly. He put money into betting endorsements, apps, and cryptocurrency. He launched an esports team called R10, started his own brand of organic gin called R1, and a wine company called Vino de Campeones. Some ventures made money. He reportedly earned over $700,000 in the 4 months after his release from Paraguay, but it wasn't enough to cover the debts. In 2021, Ronaldinho was hauled into a congressional hearing about an alleged $49 million crypto pyramid scheme called 18K Ronaldinho. The scheme promised users daily returns on cryptocurrency. Ronaldinho insisted he had no involvement, that his image and name had been stolen. The real issue was taxes. By 2021, he reportedly owed Brazilian tax authorities millions again. Despite earning $23 million in wages during his professional career, plus all those endorsement millions, Ronaldinho had blown it all. While foreign stars like Maradona and Ronaldinho made headlines with their collapses, English football legends weren't any safer from financial ruin. John Barnes, the Liverpool and England winger, was declared bankrupt in September 2025 after his media company racked up debts of $1.5 million. This wasn't Barnes's first bankruptcy. He'd been declared bankrupt before in 2009, though he called that one a tax oversight, and it was eventually overturned. But this time, it stuck. Barnes has received 6 separate bankruptcy petitions since 2010. At his peak, Barnes was earning serious money. As the first $10,000-a-week player in English football, he was among the highest earners of his era. During his time at Liverpool from 1987 to 1997, he won 2 league titles, 2 FA Cups, and the League Cup. He earned 79 caps for England and was twice named Football Writers Association Footballer of the Year. According to Liquidators reports, Barnes' company owed HMRC $776,878 in unpaid VAT, national insurance, and pay. On top of that, there was $461,049 owed to unsecured creditors and a $226,000 director's loan. Barnes had been banned from being a company director for 3.5 years over these debts before the final bankruptcy order came through. What happened? Like many footballers of his generation, Barnes got caught up in bad investments. Speaking on the Overlap's Stick of Football show in early 2026, Barnes opened up about his troubles. He revealed he'd invested in Brazilian coffee and various other schemes around the world, plus villas in Florida, similar to the notorious Kingsbridge scheme that caught out hundreds of footballers.
So I got caught with a lot of coffee in Brazil, a lot of investments all over the world.
The problem was the advice he was getting. It wasn't from financial professionals, it was from mates who knew somebody. Barnes lost a lot of money on these investments, and by the time he stopped playing and a big tax bill came in, he was playing catch-up for years. From 2017 until 2024, Barnes paid off about $2 million to HMRC, paying $10,000 every month. "What I really should have done is gone bankrupt from 2017, Barnes admitted. "Honestly, I would have had $2 million I could have done whatever I wanted with. But what I didn't want to do is to be seen not paying it."
From 2017, I honestly would have had £2 million. I could have done whatever I wanted with it, but because what I didn't want to do is to be seen not to be paid.
Barnes wanted to be seen doing the right thing. He saw how hard it is for ordinary people to pay their heating bills and didn't want anyone thinking he had money but wasn't paying his taxes. So he cashed in everything, houses, investments, everything except his main home and car to pay back what he owed. But even after paying back $2.2 million, there was still last year's tax bill to deal with. That's when HMRC became overly aggressive, and he had no choice but to go bankrupt. The irony is painful. If he'd declared bankruptcy in 2017, he'd have that $2 million. Instead, he tried to do the right thing and ended up in the same place anyway. Barnes at least tried to pay his debts back, but some players simply couldn't escape disaster no matter what they did. Wes Brown's story shows that even Champions League winners aren't safe from financial ruin. The Manchester United defender, who won 5 Premier League titles and 2 Champions Leagues, who set up Cristiano Ronaldo's goal in the 2008 final, was declared bankrupt in April 2023 with debts exceeding $1.5 million. At his peak, Brown was earning $50,000 a week at Old Trafford. That's $2.6 million a year. Over his career, he earned millions, but he lost it all through bad property investments and lifestyle choices he couldn't sustain. Sources close to Brown revealed that he was trying to keep up with the lifestyle of teammates earning 5 or 6 times more than he was. When you're playing alongside the likes of Wayne Rooney, Rio Ferdinand, and Cristiano Ronaldo, who were on massive wages, it's easy to feel like you need to match their spending. But when you're earning a fraction of what they are, that's a recipe for disaster. Most of Brown's money disappeared in bad property deals.
And then it come to the head last year, and that's how he went. And you know, like I said, it's happened, and I'm just getting on with it.
He overpaid on a farm that his ex-wife Leanne lived in, spending something like $6 to $7 million on a property he then couldn't sell. They tried to offload it, even lowering the price to $4.75 million, but there were no takers. Another property was listed at $4.5 million, but took 7 years to sell, finally going for $2.4 million, almost half price. That's a $2.1 million loss. Any money Brown had left was tied up in properties he couldn't sell. On top of the property disasters, Brown went through a costly divorce from Leanne, who starred in Real Housewives of Cheshire in 2022. The divorce proceedings cost him a significant sum at a time when he was already struggling. Then there were the debts. Brown owed HMRC a 6-figure sum in unpaid taxes. He also owed a car finance company, just a few £1,000s, but enough that they joined HMRC in petitioning for his bankruptcy. The fact that such a small debt could push him over the edge shows just how bad his financial situation had become. When the bankruptcy order was issued in April 2023, Brown had moved out of the mansion he'd shared with Leanne and their 3 daughters. He was reportedly renting a modest property from current Manchester United star Marcus Rashford at mates' rates. It's a far cry from the $5 million Cheshire mansion with a swimming pool and the $100,000 Bentley Continental he used to drive. Former teammates rallied around Brown. Wayne Rooney, Michael Carrick, and Rashford all offered support. Looking back at Brown's early life makes the fall even more stark. He came from humble origins, taking 2 buses to Manchester United training as a youngster because he couldn't afford a car or taxi. When Sir Alex Ferguson found out, after Brown got in a fight on the bus, he insisted Brown move closer. From those humble beginnings, Brown achieved incredible success. 362 appearances for United, 14 major trophies, 23 England caps. He should have been set for life. In November 2024, Brown opened up about the experience. "It was a tough ride. It's something that is hard to deal with on your own at times," he said. Brown now focuses on educating other athletes about financial literacy and due diligence, the very things that were missing when he was at the peak of his fame. Brown's story showed what happens when bad property deals meet lifestyle pressure, but the next case reveals how even national heroes can fall victim to the same investment traps that caught so many others. James McFadden's bankruptcy in early 2026 proved that even Scottish legends aren't immune to financial disaster. the former Everton and Scotland star, who scored one of the most famous goals in Scottish football history, that stunning strike against France in Paris in 2007, was declared bankrupt with debts of €294,192. McFadden's career should have left him comfortable. He started at Motherwell, winning the Scottish PFA Young Player of the Year in 2003, before Everton signed him for $125 million. He later moved to Birmingham City for $5 million in 2008 and had spells at Sunderland. At his peak in the English Premier League, he was earning tens of thousands of pounds a week. He earned 48 caps for Scotland, becoming a national hero for goals like that incredible 30-yard strike that beat France 1-0 and secured Scotland's first win on French soil since 1950. Since retiring in 2018, McFadden has worked as a pundit for Sky Sports and BBC Scotland, and briefly worked as a coach. He should have been fine financially, but like John Barnes and so many others, McFadden got caught up in bad investment schemes in the early 2000s. The culprits were UK film production partnerships and property deals that promised lucrative tax breaks. Players were encouraged to invest their money in these schemes, told they'd get tax relief that would save them millions. But HM Revenue and Customs later ruled these schemes were a form of tax avoidance, hitting the investors with massive tax bills instead. McFadden wasn't alone. Hundreds of footballers lost money this way. Former Celtic stars Chris Sutton, Darren Jackson, and Rab Douglas all went bust, owing the taxman over film schemes. Former Rangers midfielder Barry Ferguson was made bankrupt in 2017 with debts of $1.4 million from similar investments. The so-called V11 campaign group includes players like Danny Murphy, who claims to have lost $4, maybe $5 million through investments with Kingsbridge Asset Management. Even Wayne Rooney and Rio Ferdinand lost money in Kingsbridge schemes, buying homes in Florida through the company. Company's house records show McFadden has been a director of several film investment firms over the past 2 decades. When HMRC ruled against these schemes, the tax liabilities ballooned. McFadden found himself owing millions in unpaid taxes that he couldn't pay. In December 2025, Accountant in Bankruptcy approved McFadden's voluntary sequestration application. Insolvency specialists Opus Restructuring were appointed to try to recover cash for his creditors, but McFadden declared he has no assets available. A spokesman for Opus explained, "We can confirm that James McFadden has voluntarily entered sequestration in Scotland. This follows losses connected to historic property and film investment schemes from the early 2000s and associated tax matters." This wasn't McFadden's first brush with tax troubles. In 2018, he was taken to court by HMRC over an unpaid tax bill. That time, a family member helped him settle the debt, and he avoided bankruptcy. But 7 years later, the debts had grown too large, and there was no escape. The sad thing is, McFadden was 42 when he went bankrupt, still young enough that he should have been enjoying the fruits of his successful career. Instead, he's dealing with the consequences of investment advice given to him when he was in his early 20s. On the night his bankruptcy was made public, McFadden was on screen as a pundit for Rangers versus Aberdeen. Which of these stories shocked you the most? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section. And before you leave, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Goal Rivals so you don't miss the next ones.